welcome everyone to the panel related to the film First Time Home with the filmmaking team from First Time Home. And the title of our panel is Indigenous Families Separated by Borders and Connected Through Film. So we'll be talking a little bit about the process of making this film, the experience of making it, what the directors and other people involved are hoping to get across with the film. And then we'll watch a few clips and answer questions in the chat. So my name is Seth Holmes. I'm the producer of the film. I was honored to get to work with 4 directors who are here: Esmirna Librado, Noemi Librado Sanchez, Esmeralda Ventura, and Heriberto Ventura. And also work with the co-producer, Miriam Magaña Lopez, and the editor, Jesus Silva, and our fabulous and award-winning creative consultant, Yolanda Cruz. And we'll all talk a little bit about making the film. So maybe first I'll show you a 1-minute introduction that we put together looking at this film. Hang on one second. Should be this one.
My name is Noemi Librado Sanchez. I am 17 years old and I'm currently a senior in high school. I work together with my sister and 2 of my cousins to put this film called First Time Home. In this film, you are seeing us getting ready to travel to southern Mexico to meet a lot of our family members over there who we've never met before. And one of those family members was our seriously ill great-grandpa. You are also going to get an idea of what it was like and what it's like to live and be an immigrant Indigenous family. You are also going to be able to see some struggles that we've had to go through to be able to get to where we are now. I really hope you guys enjoyed this film as much as we enjoyed to film it, and thank you so much for the support.
Thank you. So maybe I'll start with a question for Noemi, since everyone just met you in that introduction. How many films have you made before, Noemi?
This is my first one.
How old are you and what do you usually do with your time?
I am 17 and I usually just play sports.
And are you in high school?
Yes, I am a senior in high school.
Great. Could you say maybe one favorite moment from working on this film?
Maybe just being able to connect with my family and being able to get those like special moments on camera and being able to go back and see them all over again.
And were there any difficult moments from working on this film?
Having to like connect, even though we don't live close to each other, and like the communication and just stuff like that. Communication was mainly hard because especially when we had to like work through like Zoom and stuff like that, it felt like school. Having to get on Zoom and stuff, but yeah, it was fun.
So the background of this film was these 4 cousins went on a trip to meet their relatives for the first time. So all of them were born in the United States in families with parents who are from southern Mexico, in Oaxaca, Mexico. And the film tells the story of the first time they go to meet their grandpa who was sick and meet their other relatives and see their home in southern Mexico that in many ways is their home, but they had never been there before. Esmirna, could you tell us a little bit of something that you hope people get out of the film?
I think just to get into maybe farm workers' shoes, to know how hard it is to work in all these difficult conditions that they work in, which is whether it's rain, hot days, and just mostly because there was a time where, like when the presidential like campaign and stuff was going on, like people would say, oh, they come here to steal our jobs, or they come here to take what is ours or whatever, and just to give them a little bit of what we lived through, and that we don't come, or our parents or farm workers don't come here to steal their jobs or anything, but they come to do the jobs, the hard jobs that many people don't want to do.
That's a good point. Right before this panel, I ate a pear that was probably harvested and cared for by a farm worker family. And without it, I wouldn't have as much energy to be here with you. And probably everyone who's listening to this, part of their health and their energy comes from farm worker families directly. That reminds me of one clip from the film, Esmirna, that I'll show if that's all right with you.
Yeah, it's fine.
Estoy llegando otros días más en el trabajo, pero está lloviendo mucho. Pues hay como alrededor de 60 personas aquí, todos allá. Porque yo veo, como siempre, yo no veo a ningún americano aquí. Es porque no, el pago no le conviene a ellos, no le conviene estar aquí en el lodo, en el frío. No, la hora de ir por la casa, un largo viaje.
Esmirna, the person speaking, how do you know that person?
That's actually my father. He has known farm work his whole life. And it's hard. It's kind of hard to, talk about it sometimes, because like that's all he knew. And it's not because that's what he wanted to do, but it's because from there you can get how in Mexico they would go out even from their own homes to go to other places to work, and to be able to get a little bit to bring back home. And when they came over to the United States, that's what they wanted. They wanted to provide more for their families in Mexico, and then give their kids a better future or more opportunities so that way we don't work in the farm work, we're as farm workers, so we can get a better education, so we could take advantage of the opportunities they give us. Although sometimes it's hard, but that's where they grew. That's what they knew. That's everything they knew. They didn't know they didn't have the opportunity to go to school or get at least some education. At least my dad, he said he only got to the 6th grade. Sorry, that's my daughter.
So how many films have you made before? Oh, Esmirna, how many films have you made before?
Sorry, it's because I was speaking to my daughter. This is the first time I've ever made a film.
What do you usually do with your time when you're not making a film?
As you can tell, I have my daughter. And right now I'm currently going to school. I'm going to Skagit Valley College, trying to take advantage of the opportunities I was talking about, So
what do you hope to do in the future?
My plan is to become a nurse. Right now I'm working to, do my prereqs for nursing, so I could get into either get a transfer degree, or because Skagit Valley offers a nursing program too. So either I can stay home here closer to home, or go to another little town closer to me to do my nursing degree.
Thank you. Heriberto, could I ask you a couple questions?
Yeah, of course.
How old are you and how many films have you made before?
I'm 21 and I've actually never made any films. Just that one.
Was making this film any different than what you imagined filmmaking would be like?
I'm not sure. I don't think I ever expected it to be as fun as it was. I thought it was just gonna be like, just recording and seeing what everything's. I didn't know what to expect. It was a good experience though. I liked it. I loved it actually.
Could you say a favorite moment you had working on the film?
Catching grasshoppers. That's number one. Yeah. Because I remember being here and like always getting some from the swami and like it's just not the same when you could get it fresh. So that was my favorite one.
Yeah. There's a clip in the film I don't have ready to show you when everyone's learning how to catch grasshoppers to then cook and eat. Were there any difficult moments working on the film?
Leaving, that was the hardest part. I think that was the hardest and happiest moment, I think, because I got to see my parents' parents, and I'm leaving is like me going, like it's like my grandparents are going with me to see my parents, and I was very happy to go give them back the energy that my grandpa did, my aunt, and everything. So yeah, that probably the last part.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is it all right with you if I show a clip of you saying goodbye to your granddad?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. What's it like to watch that scene now?
It's very emotional to just see that part. But what I was trying to tell him, which he can't really understand my triqui. I talk it very well, but it's still a little broken. So I asked my cousin to translate, and he told him that even though I'm here, I'm still never gonna forget him. So that's what Ray was telling my grandpa for me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's very emotional because I don't forget about him. Actually, that's his patient background. So yeah, it's a lot of emotions just watching that again. It makes me happy that I got to see him and got to visit and experience the whole place, the whole environment, and just being in his presence. It just made me feel good, and right, watching that makes me feel like he's still here with me. So yeah.
Could you explain why while you and Israel were speaking with your granddad, there were two different languages? There was English subtitles in one color and yellow in another color. And you yourself are trilingual, you speak three languages. Could you talk a little bit about being trilingual and how you learned to speak three different languages?
Well, I didn't really know English. English wasn't my first language. at all. So it started with Spanish because my cousin used to, well, my parents always spoke Spanish. They tried to talk Triqui too, but I was about 3 to 4. And then that's when Raul, my cousin that used to live with us, used to always talk to me in Triqui, and I would always talk to him in Spanish. So it's a funny story because we would talk to each other so much to the point where he'd understand what I say and I'd understand what he said. And then we both learned the language. And then just growing up, my parents spoke it even more. And then just me not like knowing English made it a little easier. So Spanish is very hard to learn. So it just came natural. And then English was pretty hard for me to learn. I don't know, that made it a little difficult too.
It's impressive that you speak 3 languages. I've been trying to learn Triqui from your family for 20 years. I can only say thank you and have a soda and a few
you know a lot more, Seth. You know a couple.
a few things. I want to show a brief clip. Actually, it's when Esmeralda and her cousin are speaking to each other and joking about these different languages.
Okay.
Razón. No, ya te lo explain. No te lo explain.
¿Por qué no me enseñas?
Claro. Te enseño en Tiki y me enseñas inglés.
Sale.
¿Por qué no me explicas en español y en inglés?
¿Cómo es tu trabajo?
Mi trabajo.
En inglés.
¿Cómo está mi trabajo? Está bien. Tranquilo. No me dijo eso.
That just reminds me of me and Raul just talking when we were little kids. That's very funny.
Yeah.
It's how it starts though. We didn't have no education. We were like babies. We didn't go to school to learn any Triqui or Spanish. It's what was around us. Our parents never knew how to speak very good Spanish, so they never really spoke it. They didn't know English at all, so all they would speak is Triqui. So that being around that environment, it just came natural. Little by little, I just started talking more and more, using more words, and I'm very grateful that I know all 3. To be honest, it's very helpful.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Esmeralda, do you want to say anything about seeing that part, or would you rather talk later?
What can I say? That part I say, since I really don't speak Triqui. I mean, I understand it fully, but just I don't speak it as well as Eddie and my parents do. That's why my cousin was telling me to teach him English, and I was asking him to teach me Triqui.
One of the things I like seeing in the film is there are these emotional moments where you meet people who you've heard of or spoken with on the phone for years but haven't met before, and there are these emotional moments of saying goodbye that are sad, but there are also all these moments where you're just having fun together and being family. And that was one of those moments where you kind of automatically already know how to joke around and be family together. I wanted to ask Yolanda Cruz, who has multiple, I know of 10 of your films, but I bet there are more. I know of 3 awards that you've gotten, including from Sundance. And I believe your film Hope Soledad is premiering now in the Morelia Film Festival. You've been interviewed, you were part of the Sundance Native Filmmakers Lab, and you were also part of another Sundance fellowship, and you've written blogs and done interviews about binational Indigenous filmmaking and Indigenous and Latinx or Latinae filmmaking. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the importance of binational Indigenous and Indigenous Latinx or Latinae filmmaking.
Well, I think that, well, first of all, I thank you for the invitation, and thank you for having the opportunity to work with the work that you did. I think that I came into First Time Home when you had, I forget how many hours you had, and but I think I was interested in the film, first of all, because it's an area that I've worked in before, and I've made a couple of films in Zapotec, Mixtec, and Chatino, and I had worked in Triqui. So, and then I thought what was unique about it, it was that many years ago I made a film it was my thesis film. It was called Genatiza, and it is about this gardener who goes back to his village in Oaxaca and bring his kids to be the godparents of Jesus. And then I was following that experience, but then some of the kids at that moment, I was like, wow, it's very interesting to see the relationship of the kids and their grandparents. I didn't follow that thread myself because I was going with the experience of returning home. So then when I saw your film and I thought, wow, so now these are the kids documenting themselves, right? So then it's kind of like, so the next generation kind of making their own films about their own experience. And so that was quite interesting. And I think that at the end, I think we succeeded at making that. And I think that's what I'm excited about. And so I haven't had the opportunity to see all of us together and to say, well, good job, And I think that it's something that we hadn't really discussed. And I think, as you mentioned, I've been talking a little bit about making films in Indigenous languages. And I think it's very important for these reasons, because I think that by filming your own experience, so us filming this experience that we know is firsthand experience. And so then you have access to things that we don't have, the other people that just kind of come in and try to make a film, they don't have the subtleties. So I think that that's why it's important. And it is important that it's difficult to make films, but I think it's important to be able to share this experience, not just for us to understand ourselves, our families, our communities, but also for others to understand us that this is a complex, situation, but also it's like any other situation with families, but in this case, we have a border separating us, and then yeah. So your question, so. I think that that's why, relating it to the film, I think that's what I take out of the experience. And I think that that's why I was excited to be working in this film.
It was an honor to work with you. And I don't think it wouldn't have moved forward without your expertise, honestly. On Tuesday night, the 4 directors are invited to talk about the film with the group Tequio, the youth and young adult group of the Mixtec Community Organizing Project based in Ventura, California, all of whom are Indigenous Oaxacan people, mostly Mixtec, Zapotec, and I think Purepecha maybe, but I don't remember exactly. And they're very excited that there's a group of Triqui people, young adults, who made a film about their families and their experiences. And one of the things Tequio, the people are interested in, is could they do this? How, in what ways could other Indigenous Oaxacan binational communities and families start documenting their lives and sharing their stories with film? And I wonder if you, as a more seasoned filmmaker than any of us on the rest of the team, if you have any advice for first-time filmmakers. Say, Noemi, when she started working on this film, was 12. I think the rest of you were maybe 17, some around there, 16, 17, 18. Do you have any advice for young people who might want to work on their first film, and maybe especially from these communities?
When I start making films, I often wonder who's the audience for this film. And then my audience first becomes my family and the people from my community. And so then I think about making a film that they would like, that they will enjoy watching. And in that way, I'm not pressured with kind of the classical standards or demands of what a film it should be. And so I think this film, First Time Home, was filmed on iPads, on cell phones. And I think that when you do have a story, I think that it's important. It's important to get it out, and it doesn't really matter how technology sometimes is a limitation. When I was, again, with this film, Genatisa, and I think I'm speaking a lot about it because I'm going to Bilbao to present it 20 years later. So, and I'm like, wow, so it seems like, so I feel like that film came out early. And I think that I'm gonna kind of take another step back and just talk about the question you have about making indigenous cinema, Latinx cinema, and how I started doing it, because I came out with this idea of the film when I was at UCLA, and I was on my way to come back to Oaxaca, but I was recruited to come in some of the meetings of the Oaxacan organizations, and then I saw this whole organized community. And I wanted to, and I started reading the literature on this communities that was done by Gaspar Rivera, Felipe Lopez, and then I was like, but where is a film about this? And so then I said, well, nobody was talking about the indigenous experience in this. And so I thought, well, rather than going back to Oaxaca and document my community, I much rather make a film about this community. And so that's how I started going with this family, and I follow them because I said, we need to show this experience. This is our community. We need to document this experience. And I think that that's how a film begins, because you see the need and you have the desire. But then also it's really easy to give up, because I think, as Jesus is going to talk about editing, it's a long process to string together the story. But I think that it's important to start with something simple. And so then when I was with this film, it was my thesis film. And I had some footage that was not very, it was a little bit dark, it was shaky, and I was avoiding to use it. But then I had to graduate and I had to get the film accepted for my graduation. So then I contacted this filmmaker that I admire, Maureen Gosling, who is in Berkeley, and then in Oakland. And I say, hey, can you help me with the film? Because I think that, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. I'm missing something, but I'm not sure what it is. And so then she worked with me, and we found some of my dark shots, some of my shaky shots. And she's like, it's okay. It conveys a meaning. And the film worked, and the film worked really well. But I didn't want to show that. I was like, no, this can't go. And so then I think that that's what my advice to young people is like, well, just make a film that where you can be proud of sharing it with your family. And then I think that the rest of the film will find its own audience. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yolanda Cruz also made a documentary a few years ago called Tlacolullocos. I put it in the chat, and the Tlacolullocos are now in Oaxaca, I believe, and they made all the design for this film. They took designs from the Triqui area where the four directors and their families are from. The clothing that's worn there, the designs on the clothing, and then made the backgrounds and all of the key art for the film, which was wonderful to get to work with them too. They weren't able to join us today. And then the musicians who did original recordings for all of the songs in the film. I don't know, Heriberto, could you talk a little bit about who is in that band and how you know them? Or
well, that's my stepbrother. It's amazing how he plays. I don't know, he sings very well, and it was like a no-brainer to just pick him to have a little part in the video too, since he's from there. And he's from there and making music, so it's even better. And he has a YouTube channel, so it was easier for us to choose and go through all the music. And we've been listening to his music, so it was just the first option. And then there was others, but I don't know, his voice is just, I like it so much. And then the people in the band, just so like eager to make it up. And it's amazing seeing them how they were before until now. My dad would always talk about my brother. He would always like show me pictures, and I'd always get along with him. We would always call. He would call my brother. We would talk on the phone. He would ask my sisters too to talk to the phone with him, and we all enjoyed all that, the moments we had. But yeah, it's his music, and we had like 3 options, and we couldn't decide which one because they were all good. But we ended up choosing the one that I forgot what was it called, but the one that's
La Fama de Oaxaca.
Yeah, there you go. That was my dad's favorite one, so we chose that one. And then there were some parts in it that had some talking, I think, so we chose that one too.
That you just brought up one thing that was interesting to me in working on this film together was that each of you directors, you wanted to have input on. I mean, actually, Heriberto, how many different versions of the film did you watch over the course of the last 5 years?
5 years.
Just make a guess.
5 to 8.
Yeah.
5.
Maybe more. I don't know.
More? I don't, because just 3 of them was like the music, like just choosing those and then rewatching it with the music and then rewatching it with, it was a lot. It was a lot.
One of the things that was interesting for me watching you for director's work was, I remember one meeting we had where Esmeralda, you suggested, we should also show this to our other cousin, Raul, because he is thoughtful about films and music and he plays music. And every time there was a new version, Noemi and Esmirna, you and Heriberto and Esmeralda, you showed it to your parents and like asked for advice kind of from the community. So you were directors, but even the way that you acted was very like keeping your families and communities involved in a participatory way. I remember at one point, Yolanda Cruz, you warned us that having that many people involved could make it hard to prune down the film, which I think that was a challenge in the film. But it was also for me as a new producer and as an anthropologist who's worked with your families for 20 years before Noemi was born. It was also wonderful to see how involved everyone was and how much you wanted other people to have feedback in it. I wanted to show a clip. So the original idea of this film was to document this trip, originally for each of your families, to document this trip so they could see you all going and meeting relatives and seeing what their hometown is like now. And then at some point, I don't actually remember whose idea it was, we all decided that it could be worthwhile for the family members in Washington State and California who couldn't travel with you to send video letters that then we would play for their relatives in San Martin in Oaxaca. And then for the family members in Oaxaca to record video, you recorded video letters from them and played it back home. I wanted to show a brief clip of a couple of the video letters.
When I video now, me kataisi. Nurang na ko na besi mira ko tunjuk tan puna si atah tang nekit sampai atah ni. Dan yung banana si nan kinat dan si yung katalan tu na si kacing itu ada la vida na si yo nak kan ngan ni. Pero de que ni. Na kan ko na si apa na mau cium ni. Iba ko na dan ko na si kadang si mura ke onde si dah si na ya ada mana.
Tanaga, mo saludo wa dari chico vilu visitami caminare. No nisma sa ni sezi na mia que ni lo si. Wasa, ma sezi ama. Oh. No kwa cara, no kwa kanima le. Sí, 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 camina más. Sí, ya no me, sí, sí. Masa luôn ha, masa luôn tra tạt cái này. Thế thì mà cả ông ngồi phát tiền vào nhà nhà mà rồi qua thấy không? Thì mà đi mà đi cái sen gì của lại không? Thì mà chỉ cũng đúng là cắt tiền rồi. Ta đi này ở na ta khăn này ở đây đi. Sí, camina más.
Esmirna, could I ask you a little bit what those video letters were meant to do? Why that was going on and how that became part of the film?
Well, in this video, you can see my uncle. He was sending a message to his father. Well, it was just messages, kind of like explaining that it's not because they don't want to go back, but it's because they can't. Or if they do go back, they won't be able to come back. Or, you know, the lack of money, they still have to work hard enough to at least we barely, sometimes there's times where we barely have enough, you know, to get our basic needs. So it was just messages saying how much they love their family, but they can't go back, at least not now, or, you know, maybe in the future. But without knowing, you know, that would have been, you know, the last message maybe my great grandpa would have heard, because he passed away after. And when we went, at least for me, it was my first and last time ever seeing him. There was something I read or heard that says, yes, we have our family for another, like, let's say I'm alive for a couple of years, but how many times do you actually get to see your family members? And me, I had my great grandpa for what? I was 16 years old or 17. I just had turned 17 when I went to Mexico. And within those 16 years, I only saw him once. And that was the first and last time I ever saw him. But going back to your question, it was messages that or things they wanted to get out of their chest to let their family know how much they cared for them.
Thank you. Noemi, could you say anything about what it's like to watch those video letters now, and maybe what it makes you think or feel about families that are across borders?
Yeah, I just can't, like, it's just so sad, you know, like watching those videos, like it just always makes me want to cry because, like, it's the reality that through the screen is the only way that they can see their family. Because like my sister said, if it's not because it's going to be hard to come back, it's because of money. And I don't really think a lot of people like really understand that like that's your dad that you're not seeing for a long time. That's your mom, you know, like relatives that you really need or that you really wish to have around that you just can't. And I feel like some people don't really think about that, about how much the borders really separate families and stuff. I feel like I wouldn't be able to, like my parents were like my age when they separated themselves from their parents, maybe even younger. Actually, they were younger. They were younger when they separated themselves from from their parents. And I can't imagine doing that. Like, I can't imagine being 17, miles and miles away from my parents and having to basically grow up and be a parent without your parent. Like, you know what I mean? That's hard. And that video of my uncle, like, or all the videos actually, it's just like really sad, especially that one though, because like my sister said, well, that was her first and last time meeting my great grandpa. But in one of there's a clip in the film where you can see you can like hear my tia tell my great grandpa, oh, that's Antonio's daughter, you know, like he saw me before he like it's just knowing that he knew who I was, that he saw me, I was right in front of him, and like, yeah, 12 years passed without me seeing him, but it's not because, like my Theo said, it's not because we don't want to or anything, but that's how it is, you know. And like the fact that we just weren't able to go back and see him again, but we have that little, I have that little clip of him seeing me and looking right at me after my tia told him that I'm whoever's daughter I was. After he looked at me, like I felt like it kind of not really like how do you say it, like not really make up for the time that I wasn't there, but I don't really know how to explain it. Like I won't be able to ever make up the time that I wasn't there, but it just gave me a little piece that I was able to meet him, you know, even though like he was sick and stuff, like he knew who I was. He left knowing who I was, and that's just that like that's the only thing I got from him, you know, that clip, that little screenshot.
Yeah. We'll watch that in a little bit. I have that ready to watch too. Thanks.
Yeah, I can watch it so many times, and I feel like my feelings towards it will never ever change, you know. Like I guess you can say, like, I don't want to say bittersweet, but yeah, kind of, because like it's sad that I won't be able to relive that moment again. But then again, I'm glad that I have that little piece with me.
Mm-hmm.
And like it sucks because I just wish my parents were able to do the same.
Yeah. Me too. I want to take a little break from that, if it's okay, and thank Yolanda Cruz for being an inspiration to all of us in this film with your filmmaking and helping advise us on how to move forward. And congratulations on your new film that is in the Morelia Film Festival. I believe the name is Hope Soledad, and I look forward to seeing it. I know you need to go and get ready for an event and related to your next film. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for the invite, as I said, and congratulations. I'm very excited to see the film. It has its first festival, and I think this is one of many. So I'm looking forward to our paths crossing. And as I also have a film in the festival, so then I think that is making films is not easy, especially when there are films about Indigenous themes or made by Indigenous people. But I think that things are changing a little bit. Right now, my film is in competition with 10 other Mexican films, and my film is made out with a very small budget, independent, and we're competing with films that were in Venice, Berlin. So it's kind of exciting. I'm trying not to be scared, but I'm trying to be excited about it. So I look forward to catching up, and best of luck. Bye.
We're all excited to keep watching your films. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Maybe since we just started talking about meeting your granddad, I'll show a couple clips, including the one that you just described, Noemi, and then we can move to talk with Jesus Silva, the editor, and Miriam Magaña Lopez, the co-producer, more about the process of filmmaking with 4 directors and a producer and families involved across borders. But first I'll show a clip about preparing to meet your granddad.
Se enfermó, se hinchó todo su cuerpo, como su pie y su cara, se hincha. Su cabeza no circula bien sangre, es por eso no puede hablar, dice.
I don't know if Heriberto, could you say anything about what you all knew or what you had heard from your parents before going on the trip about how your granddad was and what you were hoping to do by going there to meet him?
It's hard to explain because we didn't know what we were gonna go to do because he was very sick, he was very ill, and at the time we went the first time when we went for the film, he was in stable conditions, he was still walking and everything, but he was basically just waiting for the time to come, and we didn't know if it would be too late when we got there or before we got there. So we didn't know if we were just gonna go to visit him and just say bye or go and try to take him to get help. So we ended up doing both. We took him to the clinic, we tried to understand what's going on, and we got back and we just started, we knew what was going to happen further down the road, so we kind of had to expect the unexpected, and we just didn't think about it when we were there in the moment. Before we went, we were just thinking of taking care of him, making him feel like his own sons and daughters were there, just so he could feel better. And we didn't want him to feel sad, and we didn't want him to end up passing away and not knowing that his sons and his daughters never forgot about them, because his grandkids never have and they never will. We always think about him, and our job to go over there was just to make him feel much better and make his days easier while we were there, because we knew if we were the time we left, it's not gonna be the same. We don't have the same understandings as we have here to over there. When we go over there, we know how to talk to the doctors. We know how to try to get him better treatment. But when he's over there alone, it's hard to get transportation. It's hard to go over there. So we just went to make him feel better, just so he won't forget about how much his kids and grandkids cared about him. We want him to remember that he's still loved, and we always will remember him.
It's one thing I remember your parents saying and aunts and uncles saying. Sometimes they would say something like, "You're going in my place," and sometimes they would say, "I'm glad you're going to meet them." And so that sometimes there was this feeling that you were grandkids going to meet your relatives, and sometimes there was this sense that you were kind of in place of your parents. You were going there kind of as your parents to get to see their parents who they haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah,
I can show the clip that Noemi talked about now.
¿Lo está quitando esto?
Ya está sacando el tipo de
Oh.
Do any of you four directors want to say anything else about what it was like to meet your granddad? Or even Noemi, you talked a little bit about that clip. You could even talk a little bit about what it's like to watch it again now, if you'd like.
Yeah, I just think about the times that I had with him. Like, there was this one time when I think we had gone to Tlaxiaco to go to one of his like doctor's appointments or something. But whole point is we stopped somewhere to eat. And I think that was the time when they were saying that he wasn't really like eating, or like he was like starting to eat a little bit or something. But I like didn't finish my plate because I got full. And I guess there was like a lot left, yeah, still. Cause there's also a clip at the end of the video where I'm just like, my grandpa says I don't eat. And that's because I guess I just got full fast. But I gave the rest of my plate to my grandpa and to my great grandpa, and he finished it. He finished the food, and we were just like, I don't know, we were just so happy for him because like I guess he wasn't eating, you know, and you need food, you know, you need food to be able to continue moving forward. And I don't know, maybe it was just like a hope that we'd still have like a lot of time with him, or maybe some more time than what we did. And it just sucks how much money and how much the border like prevents, because I feel like if it wouldn't prevent that much, I'd be able to bring my grandpa with me. Like I'd be able to watch over him, or like we'd all be able to in some way make sure that he would have made it further if that's what God wanted, you know? And it just sucks because as much as it hurts us to watch it all over again and to like just think about our great grandpa that we spent that much little time with and how attached we got with him and stuff like that. Imagine our parents. Like I just can't get over that. Like imagine our parents. That's so long. It's so long since they've been here, and they weren't even able to say bye. They weren't even able to say bye, and that's just something I really hope a lot of people think about when they watch the film. Like I really hope it just catches someone's attention. Yeah.
Thank you for making this film and working on it and talking with us about it today. I think you saying, there was a sentence you just said about you need food to go on. And you brought up how money and the border makes it hard for your family to care for each other. I'm also really impressed with how much you all and your families do for each other during this film, through the film, and outside of the film to care for each other, even when money is difficult and even when the border makes it hard. That's
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I feel like, yeah, even though like as family, we obviously go through like just like things that family goes through, we're really like united and supportive, I guess you can say. And I feel like that's something really important to have in your family, especially if you have family here in the United States and family in Mexico. I feel like it's very important to try to like understand one another and like just do your best to keep in contact, because you never know. You really never know. And I feel like it kind of seems like two different like worlds, you know? Like here in the United States, you got to try to do your best to like stay united because that's all you have here in the United States. But in Mexico, you also still have a lot of more family over there, you know, but they also have to do the same for themselves. And both worlds being able to connect is like really complicated because of the circumstances that they're both in, you know. It's just not the same. And like things are really hard.
Yeah.
And
sharing that. Go ahead.
There's also something else I wanted to say. So like Eddie was talking about how like since we were over there, we were able to help him like a lot, you know, in whatever ways we could. But when they're by themselves, they can't really do the same. And like that's another struggle that we also have to go through here, because like I feel like we get discriminated a lot, you know, because of our color, or because either they don't know how to speak English, or because we speak a dialect, or like something, you know, like it's hard, like seeing our family over there go through that. But little do other people know, like we go through the same thing here too, you know, like being who we are is pretty complicated. But when you're like proud of where you're from, or like when you like know where you stand and really want better for yourself, I feel like anything is possible, regardless of the obstacles that come in your life. But you really gotta want it.
That's good advice. I wanted to see if Esmeralda or Jesus Silva, the editor, if either of you wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that Noemi just brought up in terms of the filmmaking itself, in terms of being across borders, being separated, what it was like to try to have people from Oaxaca and here involved in decision-making, about trying to call and send text messages and versions of edits and music and, you know, web designs for the background, and kind of the whole process of working on the film with multiple people across borders. Esmeralda, do you have any thoughts on that? Or we can also go to Jesus, who was editing it.
I really don't know. Can we go on to Jesus? I want to hear what he would.
Sure. Well, thank you for the invitation. Glad to be here and glad to see everybody, especially after making the film and, you know, see everybody growing up. It was a great honor to tell this story, in the sense that, you know, it's an important conversation, you know, especially here in the States. It's an important conversation to have because these topics are not in the light, in the spotlights. So, you know, for me, it was a great honor to be able to tell this story with dignity, you know, for the families first. It's a family story. And, you know, from a filmmaking point of view, it was a discovery, in a sense. Like every documentary is a discovery, because you go out, you shoot, and then once you start putting it together, that's when the film really comes alive and you really see what we have, and sometimes what we're missing, what we need to get. So it was a great collaborative process. I was working with Yolanda, everybody was remote. I was working with everybody else as well, trying to, you know, sort of ideas where the film should go. We had a lot of footage from different years, different trips. So that was always, you know, a little bit of like, well, how do we make it? Do we make it one trip? Do we make different trips? And how do we make sense out of it? But I think the core message was always about, you know, the family, right? Family united, and you know, how do they relate to the situations that they live, you know, like the farm working situation. We know that's a, you know, it's a topic that it's been going on for a long time here in the States. And I could relate a little bit. I migrated here for about 20 years ago. I moved here when I was 18. All my family was left back home in Venezuela. So I had a little bit of that experience as well, you know, what it's like to leave family behind and just, you know, you have to move on and go wherever you need to go, right, to try to make it. And that was a great, you know, it was a great opportunity that to be involved in this project and be able to tell their story, you know. And yeah, I mean, it's amazing to find those moments of like emotions, those golden nuggets, like when Noemi was talking to the grandfather, you know, you could tell that he reacted. He looked at you in the face and he saw your eyes, and, you know, you were there with him. And those are priceless moments that we acquired throughout the film, you know, sharing experience with the family, first time being there. And it was a journey, you know, it was a journey also, not only the journey within the film, but the journey of making it, you know, putting it together. That was also a great experience. And I'm glad you all were, you know, able to make this film, because it's one of those sort of stories that, you know, tells a lot, you know, about what's going on, and, you know, what's, you know, the struggle, right? The struggle for, you know, to survive, because it's a survival story, you know, in a way. And it's happening everywhere. It's happening all over the place, and for migrant families, especially here in the States, you know. So it's a very important story to tell. And there were many ways that we tried to, you know, make sense out of the film, because, you know, there were many angles. That do we concentrate more on the farm working experience and, you know, what that's like, or do we concentrate more on the family story and the trip, you know, and those sort of things, you know, when you work in a film, it's like what's the angle and what's the most important part about it, about the conversation, you know, because it's a short film. We only have about half an hour to be able to tell a story that people can watch. And at the end of the day, also the idea was what's the message that we want to leave people with after they see the film. You know, I think that was also part of the important message, part of the important mission of like, after people watch the film, what do we want them to live with? You know, when they go back home to their families and talk about like, you know, I learned something today, you know, and make them understand about, you know, this situation, this topic, because I know it's not something that is very well talked about, you know, in the media or in general. So it's a very important, I feel like, you know, privileged to be able to work with you and, you know, to tell your story, because it's a very intimate story. It's a family story. You know, you allow us to go inside your house, you know, and that was also very delicate. And, you know, it was a great experience, you know. As far as the creative process, you know, work with Yolanda, work with Seth and the directors, you know, we all kind of got together in one mindset about like, okay, where are we going with the film, right? Like it's a trip, and, you know, what do we want people to be left with after they see the film? And sometimes the footage just speaks for itself, you know, like the images speak for itself, and those were precious moments that we got on camera. So I think, you know, we were privileged to be part of it.
How many versions do you think you, including all the subtitling and music and everything, how many versions do you think you worked on?
Yeah, the subtitle was another project within the project. But I think we have many versions. I don't know, 10 versions maybe.
I was going to say more like 100 and something. I remember every single day last year for months, every day, you and I emailed each other. I was in France at the time on a like writer's residency. I would watch the version you made with the subtitles. I would send you back feedback on the subtitles. The next morning when I woke up, there'd be a new version for days and days.
Yeah, days. Oh yes. Yeah, especially multiple languages within the film, 2 layers of subtitles. You know, we had like a process of like translating the tricky. We found a translator in Oaxaca, and we were, you know, waiting for their, you know, feedback, making sure it was right. Then, you know, put it in English, trying to, you know, interpret, because it's not a matter of translation, it was more a matter of interpreting what they were trying to say. So yeah, that was a that was a very fun part of it, you know, just trying to make sure that every line what's right. So I think you know, I think we did a pretty good job at it, even though we took over 100 versions, but yeah.
Do you have any advice for young people who might want to become film editors?
Yeah, I think well, film editing is I don't know, it's one of those things that you find yourself in it once you start doing it. If you have a passion for telling stories, you know, visual storytelling, you'll find yourself in it, because you know, especially editing, you're sitting in a room by yourself for long hours. Sometimes you don't get to see your family either because you're still working at night. So if you enjoy that process of being by yourself, you know, being in a dark room, cold room in front of a screen, then that's the gig for you. But yeah, I mean, it's about telling stories. You know, it's about telling stories. For me, I found myself, you know, in the process, you know, of I guess on a personal story, it's like from when I was little, I loved to put puzzles together when I was little. So I think that's one of the things I connected with, you know, editing. It's like, well, especially in documentaries where we have so much footage and we have many angles to tell the story, then it becomes a process of discovery. So if you're curious, you know, if you're curious and if you have the motivation and the drive to, you know, to tell stories, you know, because first of all, we're storytellers. No matter what we do in the medium, we're storytellers first. You know, and starting on that, if you have a passion for, you know, telling stories, especially if you're like related to stories that become from where you're from, right? Story from your family, story from your native land. I think that's also part of the key. You know, when you feel a passion to tell the stories, you feel a passion for this work to go out. So you work at night, you work 10, 12 hours, doesn't matter. You know, you keep going with it because, you know, you want this to come out. You want this to be able to tell a message, you know, the best way possible. So I think it's, you know, finding yourself first. I think it's a process of discovery within yourself, you know, to be able to tell, to be a filmmaker, right? To be able to tell stories. So if it's something that you feel attracted to it, you have to try. You have to try to see, maybe you are a director, maybe you're a producer, maybe you're an editor. So I think it's a process of discovery, because the film industry is a very wide open field. You can become an editor or director, or you can jump positions. So I think it's a matter of like looking within yourself, you know, do like an introspective research and see what's your path.
Thank you. Do you have other projects you're working on now?
Yeah, I recently finished a docu-series for PBS, and it's called Broken Breath. They're doing the second season, and it's going to be showing on KCT in the fall, hopefully. And I wasn't born one of the editors, so yeah, we just wrapped it this week. So I'm happy that we reached that, and yeah, looking forward to come out soon.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Miriam, as co-producer, you helped coordinate and keep everyone's voices being heard in the process. Could you talk a little bit about some of the actually multiple years of translating and subtitling of the project, and some of the other aspects of working across borders and digital divides during the process?
Of course. And I first want to start out with the question that you asked the directors of, have you ever made a film before? And for me, it's also no. I've been working with Seth on other projects, and he asked me if I can support the production of this film as co-producer. And I was super excited to be part of it. Similar to Jesus, I felt very personally attached, even though our stories are different. My family is also immigrants from Mexico. My dad was a farm worker when he first came to the United States, and my family lived undocumented for over 10 years. And so I knew that this was a story that needed to be told, with the addition of these young folks also being Indigenous, and how, unfortunately, this community is erased in the US, and in the narrative and the way we talk about immigrants from Mexico. So I was very excited to be part of it. And Seth and I were kind of like, we don't know what we're doing, but we know that we want to put this together, and we know that we want to maintain an authentic voice and make sure that the directors and everyone involved, not even just the directors, but everyone that is appeared and interviewed, to make sure that their voices are heard and that they approve the messages that we send. As you saw from earlier when Seth showed some of the clips that people were sending to each other, these are very personal and emotional moments. And we wanted to make sure that everyone who was involved or who was visually seen in the film were okay with that. Because it's one thing to ask them to send a message to a family, but it's another thing to ask that if it could be used in a documentary that will be viewed by a lot of people. And so that was what we motivated, that what was our North Star, making sure that people's voices are heard and making sure that we take even the extra time that's needed to ensure that we're not erasing people's perspectives. And so with that being said, that switcher was forward, but the timeline, the budget, all of those things we were figuring out as we went, because we realized how time consuming it is to make a film and how costs begin to add up when we request edits or when we are thinking about subtitles in 3 different languages. And so that was something that Seth and I were figuring out along the process. And as Seth mentioned, there was a digital divide in multiple spaces. First of all, our tricky translator didn't have a computer. So when we would ask him to translate things, he would write things down in his notebook and then take pictures and send them to me. And then I would type them out. And then that's where we would send them for subtitling. So that's one example of the divide. When we would send clips to family in Mexico to watch, no one had a computer or access to the internet, or even if they did, if they would go into the city to do it, a lot of the computers in computer cafes don't have the bandwidth to download the film. So we were super intentional about Jesus giving lower quality images to make sure that people could still see it and downloading it. So taking into account that, as well as our directors, most of them did their work through their phone. And there were a few moments when we were considering having like a voiceover or, adding different elements to make it more personal today. And that was also tough because, as Jesus mentioned, even before COVID, we were doing this remotely. We were all in different places. So there was a lot of communication back and forth and, making sure that we had clear audio, and sometimes the phone isn't super clear. So there was those challenges that we had to overcome. And, like I mentioned also, like not everyone always has access to the computer. And so we had to figure out unique ways to get into contact with people. We were sending WhatsApp messages, we were sending Facebook messengers to try to get people to watch these clips. And, there aren't me, I sit on my computer all day. So if I get an email, I watch it right away, but understanding that not everyone has that ability to do that. So due to that, our timeline kept being pushed back, but again, making sure that we wanted to have everyone's voices heard and, in taking into account, that was something that we were okay with. And so when I mentioned, making sure that the voices are authentic and everyone that's in the film approves it, that was what kept us going, even if it pushed the timeline by almost a year. And that was okay with us. And it's also I wanted to mention, it's really cool to be here together with everyone, because even throughout the process, we weren't always able to all come together. And so sometimes we would meet with Heriberto, sometimes with Esmeralda, and Esmirna and Noemi at different times. And a lot of our messages were through Facebook Messenger, but we made it work. And they were all super lovely and were able to, get us the reactions and share with their family. And so balancing that and making that all together, I think was a really good experience. And it was fun. Though sometimes, like I said, Seth and I were like, I don't know what we're doing, but we're making it work. And, the directors too, it's their first time. So sometimes they would be like, oh, what do you want from us? But it's kind of not what do you want from us, but what kind of feedback are you looking for? And reminding them is this a story that are we telling the story that you wanted? What else are you thinking? And I think, as we were brainstorming things together, then I remember Esmeralda like added some, gave us information about like how even the images should look like, and what story we wanted to tell. And so all of those meetings, culminated into the end film of what we wanted to tell. And yeah, that's, I think, all I have, but it was a good experience. Definitely came with some challenges, but it was worth it. And I think the directors would agree as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember the moment in one of the meetings, Esmeralda, when you were looking at the different design possibilities, and you said, it should look like the huipil, the traditional clothing from our family's hometown. That's what it should look like. And then they made it like that. So that was a great idea. Someone in the chat asked me if there were any scenes or any moments that you all decided to leave out that you didn't think needed to be seen, or that were too personal, or that didn't need to be shared with the whole world, but maybe just with your families. Can you think of any decisions to leave anything out, any of you four directors, or was it more a process of picking the ones that worked well together, or both?
Can I say?
Go ahead.
I think one main one we did try to keep out was how we made the messages for my dad to my grandpa and my aunt to my dad. We also tried to get other relatives to come and talk, and then maybe we could show their sons that video. It's not, we can't really decide if we could put that on. It's only if we ask them, but we try to get everybody involved. And even though they were just cousins, aunts, or even friends of our parents, we try to get them a chance to like record themselves, and so their family could see them over there too. And we try to do the same, vice versa. So yeah, we try to leave that up because it was mostly meant for like their relatives and their family, which we are a family together, but we're just not as close, basically close. Yeah, but that's one thing I'd say.
Yep, that makes sense.
I want to say so. Yeah, like what Eddie said. By far though, I believe we try to show them like the real part, you could say. Like we there were some parts that we couldn't show because that was really not everyone's comfortable with showing themselves, you could say, on camera or whatever it is. But for the most part, I believe we did show like reality of what we do go through or what it is with our lives.
Great, thank you. Do any of the four of you directors have thoughts on who you want to watch it? Who do you want to, or who did you make this for? Who do you want to watch it? What are the different groups of people you'd like to watch this film?
I think, well, for me, it was just for anyone that, who could, I guess, walk a mile in our shoes. So that way they could understand what we as a family of farm workers go through, or what the border really divides. Because I guess I don't think a lot of people really understand how much the border really divides our family. How we were talking about my great grandpa, when he passed away, my uncles, his own sons couldn't go to say their last goodbyes, or his daughters couldn't go say bye to my grandpa. Why? Because they couldn't go over, or because the border just simply divided that.
Anybody else want to say something about that? Who you want?
I was just gonna say, like, maybe well, obviously everybody, but mainly the people who have like different thoughts about farm workers and immigrants and people who come here to make a living and just try to move forward in life, you know, and look for something better. I really hope that it crosses through those people's paths and maybe like changes their mind in a way, or hopefully they just really think about what they used to think about, you know what I mean? I really hope it changes like someone's mind and makes them think, oh wow, like they really do like they are like going through, they don't just come here to take whatever they think we're gonna take away from them, you know, like they come here to work and do what everybody does, try to move forward in life and get somewhere, you know. Just because it's not where you're originally from doesn't mean that you don't have like the right to move forward.
I might show one more clip of saying goodbye to the family as you all were preparing to come back to California and Washington.
Tears, tears. Voy a llorar, no quiero que te vayas.
¿No?
No,
No te cuides.
Ahí me quedo.
Heriberto, at the end of the film, you reflect on this sense of pride in who you are and where you've come from that got enhanced by meeting your relatives and visiting San Martin, and this sense of gratefulness about all the people around you, family. Could you say anything about that experience?
Yeah, it made me feel even more grateful than I already felt about where I'm from and where my parents are from. I felt even more proud about it. Just going through what they've been through and actually living their conditions, living how they live, going about life and how they do their everyday little things. It's amazing to just see how different it is from here and from over there. It's a big change, and just even the air is different over there, and everything from Oaxaca taught me something new that I didn't know about. It gave me a better experience about being from Oaxaca, being indigenous, having that struggle here, and then experiencing their struggle made me really proud about. It made me really proud of my parents and my uncles and aunts that are here, doing everything they could just to support their family over there. People might think it's easy living here. People might think it's easy living over there. There's two sides of every story. We live here. Yeah, we get money, we get paid dollars, and yeah, we could maybe go walk down the street and buy a soda, buy a snack. But we have bills to pay. We have taxes to pay. We have these other things that we need to do. And people might think that it's easy living over there and it's easy to just go back and forth. But living over there, yeah, it's good. You know, you wake up, the only job you have is picking your crops, helping your neighbors. But you also can't just run inside your house, turn on the faucet, wash your hands, get a glass of water. You had to go walk miles and miles just to get a bucket of water, just so you could shower, just so you could warm up a water to drink coffee. So it really made me proud to go through both of the struggles here and there, and it made me understand a better perspective about both lives. And I can't be more proud than I already am. It just watching these videos just bring back the emotions that I had when I went, and I'm grateful that I went through both struggles just to understand how difficult it is for my parents to live here and over there.
Thank you. Heriberto, do you have any advice for someone who might want to tell their story? There's a moment in the film where your dad, at the very end, where your dad says, my story is worth a lot, your story is worth a lot. Do you have any advice for someone who might want to make their first film?
The main thing I'd say is don't think that your life isn't worth telling or your story isn't worth telling. Everybody has a struggle in life. It may not be the same struggle that the next person has, but we all have different things we struggle with. Some people, I remember sometimes I think like, damn, like, sorry for my language, but I just think like, wow, okay, I'm good. You know, I got my family living here. Yeah, it's 5 of us, 5 families in one house, but not a single day in my life did I not live under a roof, have a warm shower, have breakfast, lunch, dinner. There wasn't a day that my family didn't work together to make us feel like a family. We never felt like we were missing anything. But I would tell my story and people would watch the video and they would be like, yo, like you guys really struggle, you guys. And then you just thinking about it like, wow, like I don't see my own struggle. The biggest advice I could say is you don't know your own struggle until you tell other people. And I just feel like the best advice I could give is your story will always be worth telling. It doesn't matter who you are and how easy life might seem for you. It's always something like, there's always a struggle in somebody. So I feel like everybody should believe in themselves and just know that their story is worth telling.
Good point. Esmirna, do you have any advice for someone who might want to work on their first film?
I think the best advice I have is be yourself. Don't try to be someone else you're not. And I don't know, just be yourself, because sometimes sometimes it's easy to get caught on to acting like, or trying to live something that's not there, you know, like our videos that we recorded, we all did what we were all just living our day. It wasn't something that maybe this will be our first film, and hopefully later on we have other things that we do, and maybe the first film won't be the best, but then you don't know, and it could give out a good meaning or a good message, or a better message better than what you have expected.
Thank you. Esmeralda, do you have any advice for someone who might want to work on a film with their family or work on their first film?
Yes, same thing as they both said. Be yourself for sure, because people are gonna see the real you through the cameras, and they're gonna like, I believe what I seen is, rewatching the part where I was with Fausto, I was like, we were there like if we weren't being filmed, and that was a good thing, because people would actually get to see how we really connect just right then and there. Like, you could say they were strangers as we went, because we've never seen them in person, but once we were there, I felt like, you know, they were cousins like that I grew up with. So yeah, just be yourself in front of everything, and don't be shy. And for the people, if I go back in time, for the people that are were my age, I say, don't be shy of where you're from,
because I know there are people who are like, oh, they're like they are, you could say, shy to say that their parents are from Oaxaca and stuff. So I say don't be ashamed, don't be like, don't hide anything, just be yourself with everyone, with everything, even in, it could be in school or anywhere, you know.
Thank you. That's a powerful message. And Noemi, are you working on any new projects? And do you have any advice for someone who might want to make their first film?
The same thing as Esme, I do want to say to not be embarrassed either, you know, because I have like witnessed a lot of people who like are embarrassed to say, or like they want to act like if not, or something like that, you know. And yeah, like honestly, just be you and do what you want to do, like say what you want to say, because I've been wanting to, like, since I was young, this might be my first film, but since I was young, I love making YouTube videos. Like they weren't even actually, like no one was gonna see it, but it was always just me and my tablet. Hey guys, me and my iPod or whatever I had. Hey guys, welcome back to the vlog, or like, hey guys, welcome back, you know? Like I always like would always like wish to have a YouTube channel. Until this day, I still like want to have one, but I'm just like scared. Like I don't know, but now look at, I have my film. Like you never know what's gonna happen. I have my film in a festival, and we started off with not really knowing what we wanted to like, or where it was gonna go, you know? And so like I might take my own advice and start my own YouTube channel, but I'm not sure. But like if you really want to do something, like go for it and don't really let anybody stop you. And yes, I am working on something that's actually very exciting. It's a book, and it's like a children's book. And my intention with this is, growing up, I feel like maybe I was one of those people who wish to look and be like the other kids in my class, you know? Like I wish to, or sometimes till now, like I'm just like, oh, maybe if I was a little lighter, like, or you know, a different race, they'd take me more serious or something like that. I don't know. But I'm just like, you know what? Like I want kids to understand since they're young that you have to be proud of who you are. You have to be able to love yourself and love where you're coming from and understand things so that other people won't step on top of you, because people will take advantage of your weakness. And if they do see that you don't love yourself, or you're not really proud of where you're coming from, that's where they're gonna pick. Like that's where they're gonna come at you the hardest. And I feel like growing up, I really learned to love myself and love where I'm coming from. And this trip really opened my eyes. It's something that taught me to love myself, love where I'm coming from even more, because nobody knows your struggles. Nobody knows what you're truly going through until you really talk about it, like Eddie said. But then again, you can't let people judge you without knowing what you're going through, if that makes any sense. Like growing up, kids would bully me and like do all this stuff and say all these things, but they didn't know, they had no idea what I was going through. Like they had no idea like what I was feeling, what I was going through, and like they don't care. That's why you have to learn to be able to love yourself and think about yourself and protect yourself more than anything, and so you won't go through what it was that I went through. And just learn more, like fall in love with the place that your parents are from and where you're coming from. Because honestly, I feel like I didn't really yeah, I knew they were from Mexico, I knew that they struggled, but I never really like saw how it was, until I went to Mexico. Like it's like if I got to live a little of what they live, and it just made me want to learn some more and made me want to like learn more of where they're coming from and learn more of what it is that they had to go through, even though sometimes it is sad. Like sometimes I actually don't really like to listen because it's so sad. Like it like breaks my heart. It like breaks my heart hearing my parents say, yeah, like luckily we had clean water, but if we didn't have any, if your mom wasn't carrying that jug of water, then we would have had to drink dirty water that everyone else was drinking. That is so sad to hear your parents say. Like, it's the true reality that a lot of people go through, and it's like a lot to learn. And I just want kids to want to learn, want to know where they're coming from. So then maybe one day they can tell their story.
Thank you. That's a powerful message. I feel super honored to have been able to work with each of you. Esmirna, Noemi, Esmeralda, Heriberto, thank you for sharing your stories in the film and for working with the director and having ideas about designs and music. I feel super honored to have worked with Yolanda Cruz and with you, Jesus Silva, with everyday emails back and forth for months of new versions. And working with you, Miriam, you were amazing in keeping all of us moving forward and being respectful and inviting in this documentary film that was participatory on multiple levels across multiple borders. So thank you all, and thank you everyone who participated in today's session. I hope it was interesting and helpful, and we look forward to everyone's future projects, whether those are films or children's books or whatever you all, becoming nurses or whatever you all end up doing next. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. You can catch First Time Home at portlandfilm.org through November 8th. Please watch it. If this has not made you want to rush out and see this film, I don't know what would. It's a beautiful film made by some really lovely people. So please check it out.